In September 2021, with COVID-19 pandemic control restrictions still making it hard to travel to most places, we made a somewhat last-minute trip to Eastern Europe and spent nearly 2 weeks riding motorcycles through the beautiful landscapes and fascinating towns of Romania and Bulgaria.
The idea started to take shape after a few of our acquaintances started posting pictures of their trips to Europe on social media. Going to Europe had never really been high on my list of continents to visit, with so many other wild and exciting places still to go. But with the past year of self-enforced quarantine making us more than a little bit stir-crazy, the idea quickly bloomed from a what if to a why not. And with the help of an awesome motorcycle tour company, Romania Motorcycle Tours, to help us put all the logistics together, the mid-August whim became an early September reality. This is what packing for a 14-day moto adventure in Eastern Europe looks like. All right, so here we are packing for 14 days.
It certainly looks like we're packing.
Hopefully we're going somewhere. Looking forward to 14 days in Eastern Europe, flying into Bucharest, Romania in a few days. And from there, we've got ideas.
Subtle hints.
But not an exactly sure spot. Renting motorcycles from Romania Motorcycle Tours. Come here. For now, just trying to fit everything into the bags. And I'll tell you, packing motorcycle helmets is quite a struggle. They're kind of unwieldy and don't really fit in anything.
I think that you need to put some things from the floor in your bag.
But then, how will I remember them?
I don't know, you'll just have to trust yourself.
This is us packing.
It all begins.
For a big European moto tour. So, night before our departure to Romania, and we've hit a little bit of a snag in terms of our original plan, but it's making it more difficult to travel, and Bulgaria today was the next one to change their requirements. So here was our route. Well, I won't say it was our planned route, but at least it was our idea, where we would go around kind of in a counterclockwise direction, coming through Bulgaria and back into Romania. But yeah, it's in addition to the U.S. being a very high rate, they also tagged Kosovo, Montenegro, and North Macedonia with being very high. And very high countries you can no longer come from a very high COVID rate country into Bulgaria. So doing this direction doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, the conditions are changing daily. We've been checking the U.S. Embassy websites where they give detailed information and Skyscanner showing the different entry requirements. And as you can see, Romania and Hungary have some difficulties getting in, being yellow. Serbia and Bulgaria more challenging. And then the rest of these being pretty easy to get into if you're vaccinated. But the situation is changing daily, and we leave tomorrow, so who knows?
Well, based on our magic list, it looks like we're all packed up and we're ready to go with at least the most important items. And if it's not on there, or if we think we've got it and we've forgotten it, then we'll just have to get it when we get there.
So here we are at the Portland airport. So far so good, getting ready to catch our flight first to Salt Lake, and then to Amsterdam, and then to Bucharest. Here we go.
After our overnight flight, we arrived in Romania, a bit groggy, but excited to get moving on our adventure. We were met at the airport by Maria from Romania Motorcycle Tours and her partner Mikhail. They whisked us away to downtown Bucharest, where we were immediately enveloped in the deep history and culture of Eastern Europe. So in the last 24 hours, we have left the United States, come through the Netherlands, and found ourselves in Bucharest, Romania. We spent a lovely afternoon yesterday getting to see all over this town. It's a very big city. And now we are packing up everything to go and take it down and put it on the motorcycles and start that part of our journey, heading north to Brasov.
All right, day one of our trip starts here in front of the graffiti sign. After a lovely night at Hotel Capital. Gorgeous spot. All dressed up and ready to go.
First foray into traffic.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep. I'm gonna fall over.
You are not. Nicely done. All right. I think we're going to turn here. I don't know how to use my turn signals though.
Yeah, it's like mine don't turn on.
No?
Nothing's happening.
Huh, okay. Try pushing, I don't know. Okay, well, do you want to pull over and take a look? Yes, okay. First pit stop.
Because these buttons work, like I can pick, oh no, well there we go, yes. Like I can pick there, but nothing else happens. Of course, it also keeps flashing those emblems at me also.
It didn't stop?
I don't know if it stopped when I started riding.
But this is not good because like your headlights, your horn doesn't work. Yeah, nothing works.
I mean, that cable's been crimped.
Which cable?
The next one in, that one.
Got it. Maps say we'll be there in 20 minutes. So, small hiccup with the bikes. I think when we were taking off the cell phone mount off one of the bikes and putting it on the other, it was actually, when it was put on, it was pinching the wire, and then when we took it off, it unpinched the wire, and unpinching the wire, Beth lost all of her handlebar controls. So
not so good in traffic.
So Maria hooked us up with the shop on our way out of town, and they're gonna fix it, and we'll be probably on our way in 20 minutes. Beth, we are riding in Romania.
Can't believe it.
Trying to get out of Bucharest after a little hitch in the giddy up there with some electrical issues on Beth's bike. Got it to a shop. They took care of us right quick. We've already run several red lights. But you know, we're doing it.
We're making it happen.
And we're on our way to Brasov. This being our first big international motorcycle adventure, navigating Bucharest traffic was totally crazy. So many roundabouts and cars going every which direction. After only a few hiccups, we were on the road and headed into the mountains toward Brasov. Who knew? We got all kinds of Mercedes, Volkswagen, and the horse-drawn buggy.
Yeah, exactly. Little bit of everything.
As we ride through the plains before getting to the mountains. I think it's worth mentioning, to provide fair warning, that we are Americans that don't speak a word of Romanian. So I'm sure we are butchering pretty much every name and pronunciation that we say for Romanian and Bulgarian towns and cultures. Please bear with us as we say names phonetically or as we heard them.
On our way north, we stopped at Castle Bran, the supposed home of Dracula. Perched on the top of a hill with steep stone walls made it hard to comprehend the scale of the structure. While it seemed small from the outside, there were all kinds of rooms and hallways within. This being our first medieval castle, we loved seeing the architecture, period furniture, and historical items from that time. It was really cool to see everything so well preserved and staged.
From Castle Bran, we rode through the Carpathian Mountains on a spectacular winding road that allowed us to drop down into Brasov, giving us great views of the town from above. The medieval city of Brasov. Wow. I guess this is the old town.
Yeah. Or Central Historic.
Yeah. We stayed in a fantastic and historic hotel right in the center of Brasov, right near the main council square and Black Church. It was incredible to be immersed in so much history. We had a fantastic outdoor dinner right in the square and had a great time wandering around the amazing Transylvanian medieval town. Are you happy with your gelato?
I'm very happy with my gelato.
You haven't even tasted it yet.
Well, but I was going to, but then you wanted to take a picture.
Yeah. Where are we?
We're in Brasov.
Yeah, on the walking street at the nighttime. We actually made it to dark this time.
Yay!
And we're eating gelato.
After we had pasta.
With a big day of riding ahead of us, up and over the Fagarasan mountains, we headed out early from Brasov and headed towards the Transfagarasan road. Leaving Brasov and going into random small towns on our way to the Transfagarasan highway. The most famous motorcycle highway in the world.
Woo! Voted so by Top Gear.
There you go. We traveled west from Brasov along the northern edge of the Carpathian Mountains, through farmland, small towns, and a few cities on our way to the Transfagarasan road. Wow, we are going into those mountains, Beth.
That's insane.
Right?
Yep. Somehow or another.
The map pretty much shows us going that way.
Yep.
Known as one of the best roads to ride in all of Eastern Europe, the road winds its way up to the high alpine, where trees disappear in alpine heather and scrub.
While the road was certainly spectacular, with great views and excellent motorcycle riding, the amount of traffic, including giant tour buses, made the whole experience a little arduous.
Look at it zigzag across like that.
Uh-huh.
It's probably faster to take the tram because you don't have to zigzag so much. We're gonna make a turning it person out of you yet. You're gonna start with teaching you how to lean the motorcycle over.
I am leading.
We'll show you the video footage, and so that you can be the judge of that.
It feels like I'm leading.
I know. That's. It feels like I'm leading too. Tunnel.
I know, crazy.
The road is just straight and then boom.
And you break out in the sunshine.
Ooh, yeah.
Still, the scenery was amazing and it was well worth the trip. From the highway summit, we made our way down to the town of Curtea de Arge.
Look at all this garbage. It's like people intentionally pull off here and huck all their garbage into the creek. Okay, can you pull up just a little bit? I need you in the picture.
I don't want to get eaten by them.
You're not going to get eaten.
I also don't want to get hit.
Yeah, I kind of wanted you to go more left, but whatever.
I can't go anywhere.
You need me to come get you and back you up?
I cannot back up.
You need me to come get you and back you up?
Probably. I'm going to get off my bike, though, because this bear's really close. And I don't want its parents to get angry at me.
You need to back up.
I can't. It's the problem. Like, my feet just scoot out from underneath me.
Okay.
On the way down out of the mountains, we had several encounters with bears. This is apparently a big problem in the region, where bears have become very habituated to the human activity and come right up to cars. Probably less unnerving when you're inside the steel cage of a vehicle, but on a motorcycle, these close encounters with large brown bears were a bit scary.
This is the dam.
God damn it.
You might say dam.
No bears here, just a dam.
Yes. By this time, we were acutely aware of the complications that lay before us for the next part of our journey. We had been closely following the latest COVID-19 restrictions on our embassy's website for the various countries we were planning on visiting. Our fears were confirmed by fellow travelers with posts on ADV Rider that indicated some significant complications in border crossings, particularly into Serbia. To add to that, we were exhausted, or at least I was. Beth is much more of a trooper than I am. Jet lag really took its toll on me for the first several days of the trip. It was at this point that we realized that our original route was perhaps a bit too ambitious and logistically challenging.
The morning we woke in Curtea de Argeș, we made the clutch decision to reroute our trip and stick to Romania and Bulgaria rather than piling on the miles and travel quarantine risks to get to Croatia. With our pride a little bit wounded, we asked Maria of Romania Motorcycle Tours to reroute our trip to stay between Romania and Bulgaria only and to head east towards the Black Sea rather than continue west into Serbia. Maria was super accommodating and had us continue our trip as planned for the next day while she planned our new lodgings and rerouted our trip. So we headed west for one more day towards the Danube River.
So this is one of the biggest challenges we've encountered here in Romania, getting fuel. And as you can see, green is actually what you want. Unlike in the US where green is not what you want. Green is diesel. Here in Romania, maybe it's all of Europe, I don't know. Green is what you want. But it kind of freaks me out every time I do this because I'm like, am I really putting diesel into my bike? How do I know? Look at the numbers. That's the giveaway. And this is pretty obvious because it says diesel, but some of them don't say diesel or they call it something else. You want the green one, not the black one. This has been a really nice day. I mean,
Yeah, it has.
I mean, just the nice country roads and just going through the kind of farmland and village after village, and now this national park and the mountains and just great pavement. I mean, and mostly light traffic all day. I mean, this has just been fantastic. Well, we were sad we weren't going to get any off-road riding for our whole trip here in Romania, but no, road construction delivers and gives us off-road riding. These dudes from Czechia in front of us are taking it seriously by riding standing up. Beth and I were not so serious.
On our way to Dubova, we took a route through the Baie Herculena and the Cerna River Valley. This was some beautiful riding through a preserved natural area that dropped us down to the shores of the Danube along the border of Serbia.
This is the Danube.
That's an impressive river.
I told you would know it when you saw it.
Yeah. Like, well, that's the mother of rivers.
Like so many sights on this trip, the Danube was incredible to see as we rode along the river from Morsova to Dubova.
Overnighted at a lodge along the river in Dubova.
Good day.
Good day. From Dubova, we started our rerouted trip, and rather than continuing west to Serbia, we went north to Hunadora.
The statue of Decibelis, which is not actually that old.
No.
It's like 1900s, like 1960s, I want to say, something like that.
There's a lot of stuff that happened around here in the 1940s to 1960s.
Yeah.
Very interesting. The riding was fairly straightforward, lacking some of the spectacular natural highlights of previous days, but we did see some fantastic historical stuff, including Ulpia Traiana Sarmizegetuza, one of the oldest historical attractions in Romania. The exact period when the city was built is not known. Sarmizegetuza was the capital and the largest city of Roman Dacia.
It was incredibly cool to wander around these ancient ruins and think about the people that inhabited this area and built these fortifications so many years ago. After a brief stop in Sarmizegetuza to stretch our legs and see the sights, we continued north to Hunadora.
The true highlight of day 5 was Corvin's Castle in Hunadora. While the castle had been through many renovations and several iterations, it fit the storybook version of what a castle should look like. It was really cool.
What do you think, B?
This is crazy. This is like a real castle.
Yeah,
It feels mostly old.
I think it is old.
Who started to have this castle built asked these 3 Turkish prisoners to build the well, and when they finished he'd give them their freedom. So they dug for 15 years until they finally hit water. But unfortunately in that time frame the guy died, and his wife decided to renege on his promise and was just going to murder them when they got done. So their dying wish was to be able to make an inscription inside of here that translates roughly to, "You may have water, but you have no soul." From Hunadora, we headed east to Sibiu.
It's like bird deterrent, except for there's birds on this one all over the place.
To make things more interesting for riding, we decided to take the longer route and go up and over the Carpathian Mountains once again, this time via the Transalpina road.
Despite being much less popular than the Transfagarasan highway, the Transalpina was definitely our favorite road of the trip. While the original road actually predates the Transfagarasan, new pavement in the last 10 years meant that the swoopy turns and switchbacks were just perfect for riding. And having perfect weather also helped. The lower popularity led to less crowds on the road and less giant buses vying for our lane. We had lunch at a high alpine meadow with spectacular 360-degree views of the surrounding mountains. It was truly an incredible experience.
After a fantastic time in the mountains, it was an almost magical experience descending down into the colorful, gorgeous medieval city of Sibiu.
We made our way through the old city on narrow streets, sometimes of cobblestone, to find our hotel right in the heart of the city. It was absolutely perfect. After several days of continuous riding, it was great to take a rest day in Sibiu and soak up all the history of the medieval city. We enjoyed checking out all the cool architecture surrounding the Grand Square and surrounding areas, eating excellent food in the outdoor cafes, and people watching.
Having a rest day in Sibiu was spectacular and gave us time to immerse ourselves in all the grand architecture, narrow streets, grand stairways, and mysterious tunnels. Even with COVID, there were still tons of people around and all kinds of activities happening, including weddings, music festivals, and public works ceremonies.
We also took a couple hours to do laundry and clean up our act for the second part of the trip.
You have a big bird poop on your windshield.
So it goes. Leaving the beautiful town of Sibiu. Over the next 2 days, we rode steadily east towards the Black Sea. The days were mostly utilitarian, getting us from one edge of Romania to the other, but there were some cool things to see along the way, including the Transfagarasan citadel. The 12th century citadel was in the process of being rehabilitated and was quite impressive with its moat and massive entrance gates.
On our way, we retreated to a night at the Gol Curia, a 150-year-old guest house a ways off the beaten path that had incredible architecture and scenery.
All right, so we were told that our next accommodations was going to be in the country, and here we are on Country Road 11.
And we were not lied to.
The Gol Curia guest house was just such an unexpected surprise and such an amazing place in the middle of nowhere. We felt fortunate to find ourselves there. It really felt like we were living in old times and yet still enjoyed all the comforts of modern life. The architecture of this place was truly amazing. I mean, look at these wood beams.
We were treated to an excellent meal and a very relaxing evening.
Still, the miles stretched on as we continued our trek east towards the Black Sea. I won't say that it was hard, but there were some long hours in the saddle. We did find ways to keep things interesting though, like buying fruit from these roadside vendors. On our way through, we stopped in Serbia, which is basically the middle of nowhere, and what we hoped would be another diamond in the rough, off the beaten path place to stay. While this place was very nice, it lacked the charm and history that the Gol Curia mansion had, and though functional, wasn't exceptionally great.
As we approached the Black Sea, we made our way through endless farmland and rolling hills surrounding the Danube River. The highlight of the motorcycle ride on this day was taking our bikes on the ferry across the Danube. We had never ridden a motorcycle onto a ferry before, so this was a novel and fun experience. It also allowed us to cut out a lot of very boring highway miles and instead stick to country roads as we made our way to the beach city of Vama Veche. Getting onto the ferry was a little bit more exciting than I needed it to be. In the rush to get my ticket out of my pocket to hand it to the guy checking us in, I managed to drop my motorcycle and break my brake lever.
Our experience in Vama Veche was a bit odd and perhaps not the norm. We were clearly there as the off-season was beginning, and many of the beach party areas were in the process of closing down for the winter. As such, it felt like the entire town was in transition, busying itself with the close of the season, and us as tourists felt like we were interfering in their annual ritual. Still, it was awesome to swim in the Black Sea and wander along the sandy beaches. From Vama Veche, we headed south along the Black Sea coast and into Bulgaria. Getting into Bulgaria with the bikes was easy and straightforward as we had all the necessary paperwork, including passports for us and the ownership and insurance papers for the bike. After a few minutes with customs and immigration, we were off again. Along the way, there were several really cool sights to check out, including the fascinating Cape Kaliakra and the exceptionally beautiful Tylanovo cliffs. Cape Kaliakra was teeming with history, dating all the way back to the BC era.
We were also very fortunate to stay at a hotel right on the Black Sea and next to the Baltic Palace. Constructed between 1926 and 1937 during the Romanian control of the region, for Queen Marie of Romania, the palace is a beautiful complex of buildings and gardens. The gardens are absolutely spectacular, and with the Black Sea backdrop, it is just really quite enchanting. After touring the palace, we had an excellent dinner at one of the beautiful outdoor restaurants along the Black Sea.
As the end of our trip drew near, we started heading back towards Bucharest. Our route took us on country roads back through farmland and to the Bulgarian town of Silistra.
We checked out the fortress Medzitabia, which was built in the 1840s, and wandered through the ancient city of Durostorum, founded in 106 AD, which is located right in the center of Silistra. These amazing places to check out were a pleasant surprise on our otherwise perfunctory trip home.
I'm eating a chimney cake, which we just watched her bake for us on these cool little rods in this little oven. And I just pulled a part of a coil. Mine's dipped in chocolate sprinkles.
Is it tasty?
Like a donut.
Be our last day loading up the motorcycles.
So sad.
Are you a pro at moto loading now?
I don't know that I'm a pro, I just don't forget as many things. Nice steps.
Not as much packing and repacking.
Exactly.
Just the ride from Silistra to Bucharest via customs and the ferry.
Woohoo!
On our last day on the motorcycles, we made the trek back to Bucharest. We crossed the border back into Romania with only a little bit of complication. They weren't impressed with our rural COVID or vaccination cards. And once on the other side, caught the ferry back across the Danube River.
Getting off the ferry, we said goodbye to the Danube River one last time and headed back into the farmland.
From there, it was a fairly straightforward and uneventful ride back into Bucharest. Traffic!
Back in Bucharest, you can tell because it's hot and there's lots of traffic. The traffic in Bucharest was once again very hairy, and I was glad we only had to deal with it on the first and last day of the trip. Part of the complication was the need to get a negative COVID test to get back into the US. So we had to go to the Bucharest airport in order to get the negative COVID test, which was on the opposite side of town from where we were coming from. But we navigated traffic, the airport, and our COVID test successfully and made it back to our downtown hotel.
Okay, so we're back in Bucharest. We have survived traffic, which was gnarly. and there are roundabouts, and there are people merging into your lanes and honking, and it's insanity.
Back where we started 12 days ago. Capitol Hotel, our bikes, our bags, and yeah, unloading. We got a good dinner tonight, hopefully a lunch snack or something since we haven't eaten lunch yet. And then fly out, well, COVID test willing, fly out early tomorrow morning. We'll get our results back later tonight, which should give us clearance to travel, and then we'll be on our way. What else is there to say? We had an incredible adventure and a great time touring Eastern Europe by motorcycle. We saw so many amazing things. My only regret is not having enough time to really soak it all in. But then again, isn't that always the case? There is never enough time. As our first big international motorcycle trip, we did a lot of learning along the way. Overall, it was an excellent trip, and we're looking forward to our next international motorcycle adventure and hopefully future trips to Eastern Europe.
We relied heavily on Maria and her team from Romania Motorcycle Tours, and I would highly recommend their services for either a guided or self-guided tour. Maria's guidance, patience, and flexibility made our trip absolutely spectacular. She was friendly, informative, and truly cared about us and our experience. Romania and Bulgaria were more beautiful and diverse than I had ever anticipated, and it was great to experience the sights and culture by bike, taking in the sights and smells from pavement to potholes. The entire experience is hard to put into words.